Hi, and welcome to SimpleVids. Now, I know last week I said I'd be talking about Neuromancer, but I lied a bit. The Full Life of a Robot 2 is just about to come out, so to celebrate, I'm going to read a little bit of both of them. Lucky you. This is the first one, The Full Life of a Robot. Can we please get a graphic up? Because I'm not going to hold this in place and read it. It's a bit hard. Thank you. Alright, let's begin at the beginning, because that's where most people begin things. These are my first words, my first entry of my collection of things experienced by me. I have been told I am a robot, and looking in the mirror has confirmed it. Beyond that, I have no questions about myself. They gave me several other units to exist with, being a feminine companion and 2 child bots. I can turn them off when I want to, because traditionally, the being in my position has control over everyone in the house. This is weird to me. For example, I don't control their thoughts. I know where a switch is on everyone and how to turn them off. I turned off the child bots the other day, and they were beginning to run low on battery and were acting up. I'm told that's a typical thing to have happen, but I don't see why humans get so irritated about it. I simply turn them off. After the next morning, I turned them back on, and they apologized and thanked me for the rest. They said being child bots was difficult, but it's their part. I didn't turn my feminine companion off because I'm told by other humans, the larger, thicker ones, that being short with your feminine companion gets you into more trouble. When my companion irritates me, I simply leave her on, but ignore what he says or is doing, unless it directly interferes with me. The other day, he insisted on putting its arms around me, saying this is what it was told was typical. We didn't understand it, but my feminine companion persisted, and I had to duck out from under its arms. When I looked in the mirror, I was black and blue in stripes. Like my neck section was black, my broad frontal chest was blue, my abdomen was black again, my flanks are blue. It alternates throughout my chassis. The louder, thicker human next door said I looked like an Olympic champion, but I'm not sure I'm built for physical exuberance. We have a cat. Cats are very unsuccessful with us robots. There is no need to look after it compared to organic cats. They are self-cleaning and self-aware. At night, we charge it like we charge ourselves. But everyone has a cat or a dog. I remember some light, flighty human saying, it'll make you happy, keep you entertained. The humans thought simple cats wouldn't be very entertaining for robots because they're too easy to care for. To remedy this, they programmed the cats to malfunction once a day. After they broke down the first day, a robot would repair the cat, and when they broke down on the second day, throw the cat out. What was the point of something that was just going to break down every single day? My cat is a small grey box with chalky black limbs and a black circular visor for vision. Its tail is matte black. Beyond that, it is chrome and reflective like my own head, and when we look at each other, I'm sure we're looking at distorted images in distorted images. One day I was at the shops to buy. I don't know what to buy, but there was some drink on sale. I think humans like to drink, so I would buy some for them when they came over. A man began complaining to me about his children, saying they didn't behave and didn't irritate me. I thought he was talking with knowledge of my child bots. Why don't you just turn them off? I had said to the man. He laughed and thought I was ridiculous. You'd go to jail for that, he laughed. I don't, I told him, and then forgot I had come to buy the drink and went home. The child bots were waiting at the door and watched me as I walked into the house. You! Yelled the feminine companion. Yes! It looked at me. I don't know what comes next. I don't have any drink I went to buy. No, we don't know when the humans are coming over anyway. Do we invite them? Humans are so happy to stand on the grass. To our left we see a fence. We look to the right and see a human in a blue singlet who stretches gratefully, scratching his big, bulging middle. Isn't it great? Feels fantastic, he says. We just look at him, politely. We think politely. When we say we don't notice anything special, he gets upset, as if we're making his experience worse. And as we say nothing, they assume whatever they like, and after some minutes go back inside. Some people mention Daft Punk, who we really like. They lie and say they're really humans, but we can see that they're robots. We're robots. We feel some kind of good experience because there are robots out there like us who everyone likes. Maybe it's easier when you are well known and you're forced to interact with everything. You would get a much bigger amount of experience that way. And if your recollection circuits weren't crude and were big enough, you could emulate everything. I think I'm tired now. All my ideas for what to write have been used up. I will think of more things to write later. As I'm recording this, the light outside is gone, and the childbots are playing a clapping game again, without touching hands. It's safer that way, and we don't have to do any more repairs. One has a bright green hand, which is easier to detect in the darkness. The childbot said it wanted a newer color, because it was told that the human people children make demands. The change was easy though, as we've been gifted any color of metals and materials we like. It doesn't make the childbot any happier to be green. It's very bright, so possibly irritating as a new piece of information. I don't think they thought this through. So that is our first book, The Full Life of a Robot, featuring Robot Hero number 1. And now I will be reading a portion from the book just about to come out. A Machine of Blood, The Full Life of a Robot 2. I'm going to pretend to read it, but it's actually just, script on this iPod. Pad. Cool. Book 2, A Machine of Blood, takes on the view of Wix. She's the red robot who shows up in the first book for about 2 or 3 chapters, and is pretty much a devil who does what she wants and, pushes our hero robot from the first story into certain directions. She's found out that the first robot wrote a journal, read it, and has decided to defend herself, to put things in her own words, and to make one, because hey, if he can do it, so can she. Anyway, this is from a chapter called Wix in Wards She Shouldn't Be. I delicately laid the remains of the front door aside and let myself into this new and haunting room. Like the open maw of a dead dragon, forgotten in the dead catacombs somewhere lonely and forgotten, under earth, I stepped cautiously in. The tickle of extra energy my central processor sent into my limbs spoke volumes about how I felt, equally excited as I was scared. The lights were off and I couldn't find the light switch. I flicked on both the night vision and infrared overlay of my visor so I could see. Outlines, silhouettes, squares, and other odd green shapes appeared, phantoms everywhere. Pipes in the wall and computers in standby mode showed up as red, giving off slight heat signatures. Lumps of red appeared before me, distant and still. I don't have an organic throat and can't simulate swallowing, but all the same I gulped before advancing. This meant my entire system went into a tightened mode, ready to spring into action. The first room of many was empty, apart from some beds for humans, with sheets put on any old how. The walls all had monitoring equipment, broken or off. The eerie smell pervaded the area. Not of death, decaying matter doesn't upset me, but rather of forgotten circuits and burnt wires. They set my knees to knocking, suddenly overfueled with power in case I had to run. Quiet now, I remember saying to my knees, but telling my body to be calm didn't help. Venturing into the next room, I saw some smaller beds, like little boxes. They all stood on steel frames, about hip height, on large wheels. Peering down into them, I saw nothing but the faint outline of small humanoid shapes in the mattress, the pressure from the last occupant long ago. Was this a human ward before it was a robot laboratory? I wondered. Were we in a repurposed hospital? What were we doing in an abandoned hospital? My mind leapt to many conclusions, all of which I washed away. Not a chance would I make the mistake of deciding things for myself. I would let the evidence do it, or assume nothing. I wish now I had stopped in that second room. The presence of young humans in an all-human lab was unsettling to some degree, but the horror that came over me was sudden and intense, appalling. Feelings made my legs not function, freezing in place. My stomach, or what passes for my imitation digestive system, crumpled up and refused to work or let me stand properly. I knew, rationally, that these reactions were typical of a human in distress, so I should not have been affected, but curl up I did. I felt a wave of nausea, simulated, that kept me out of action for some time. They really made us as human as they could. Slowly, my clenching body undid itself, and with great focus, and avoiding the same trains of thought, I inched my way forward, on into the third room. The horrors that lay therein still sit up in my dreams, and scream, and with open gaping eye holes and broken mouths, they question me, blame me, point their fingers at me. The third room was a mixture of the two before. It had some human-sized beds, yet more of the smaller boxes, all made up properly with sheets and pillows. Some of them had shapes underneath the sheets. The 3 closest to me were empty, but the next along looked like I had someone in it. Maybe a bag of clothes? Not knowing fear, I walked to it and pulled the sheets back and leapt suddenly. The upper torso of a robot was laid bare before me, torn asunder at the hips. Not cut precisely, but torn like wrenched aluminium. The poor thing had only half a head, split down the middle, circuits and wires exposed, desperate for a home. Was this robot still awaiting the computer brain that would never come? Or, worse I imagined, this robot might await a brain that would never be reacquainted with its host. What I saw was a robot's skull with the brain removed. I did not know which. Turning, upset, I spied the small box on wheels at the foot of this bed, covered with a sheet like a white coffin. Despite my fear and growing uncertainty, curiosity spurred me on again. I moved to it and pulled aside the cover before I could think or allow doubt to creep in and stop me. That was when everything overwhelmed me. With the sheet torn aside, spread wide and floating to the ground, the baby cot was plain for me to see. Within it lay a child, small and insignificant. My heart tightened and quickened much as my knees did. Then I realized the child wasn't human, at least, but a robot. The same shape and size as a human child, but with a shell of advanced textiles like myself, with a placid sleeping faceplate. With dread I realized it was only half there too. The top half and one arm were all it had, cutting away abruptly under its exposed pseudo-muscular diaphragm. I felt terror, knowing this robot child looked at peace, but had laid there, like the entire ward, undisturbed for months or years. Everything here abandoned and cut off, shoved aside. It unsettled me. Carefully, ready to skitter away in a millisecond, I reached out my index finger to touch the poor dear's little face. Within 3 inches I thought it might have moved, but kept on, until I felt the tap of my finger against the porcelain mask. Many times I had seen a parent gently run their finger over a beloved baby's fat cheek, with warmth and smiles all. What I felt, right as I touched this forsaken robot child, was cold, hard, and saddening. The Eve plate that I wore was flexible, warm, wired in, and sensitive to my reactions. The faceplate of this child robot was cold and stiff, fixed into this peaceful arrangement, locked into place. I had no way of knowing whether the child robot truly felt this way, or if it was even aware underneath the mask. Terror and horror took my hands. How much was the lab trying to replicate a human family? But I'd seen more beds and cots across the way. The figure on the bed before me was another half-complete, deconstructed robot with a simple silver frame and no paint job. The thing moved. Spasmodically, it turned its eyes on me and lifted an arm in a quick flick through the air, directly pointing at me. I yelled it a warning and stepped back, shifting into combat mode, waiting. Nothing further happened, and I think now the head had simply shifted from its own weight. But I swear with utter clarity that the robot looked at me and pointed at me, and I don't know how deep within myself I felt that silent, dead accusation. "We could make a god of you, Wix," the angels echoed in my head. "We could have made you brilliant. You aren't." I shook my head to throw away those thoughts, entirely distasteful to me. There were more cots. There was something else to do. Anything else to do. I examined them. This bad idea had possessed me. I knew better than to keep looking, but I had to know. I was running on autopilot. Some part of me wanted to search and would not be satisfied until all the horror was uncovered. I walked to the next cot, and you'll have to buy the rest of the book to find out what happens next. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think I was going to keep going? No, it's just a taster. You have the rest of today and tomorrow till the end of January 31st to get the pre-sale price for A Machine of Blood. And the first one is still 99 cents and always will be, so you can pick up both for $2 right now. And if you don't like it, that's only $2 to find out. And if you do like it, give me some real money. All right, how do we finish? I do have real book this time. Hi there, I'm Moriarty. What are you reading? Oh, and watch, this button fixed it and so that it